What's up, everybody? Coach Dacia here, bringing you this week's hot topic. And today I'm going to talk about something that I get asked a lot, but in a variety of ways. It basically boils down to how do I know if I'm doing enough in my workouts? So today is all about workout intensity. So let's go. So, in the world of fitness, we tend to tell people there's one particular way that you can gauge how hard you're going in a particular workout. And we call that scale the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE. That scale can go from 0 to 10. 0 being, I am doing absolutely nothing right now. This is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. All the way up to 10 being, I'm not sure I can do another rep or second of this thing because this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Now, depending on the type of workout that you're doing, your RPE is going to fall somewhere on that scale. Maybe you're doing something pretty easy. You're going for a nice leisurely walk. Your RPE may be pretty low, like a 2 or a 3. Or maybe you're doing a high intensity cardiovascular class, something like that. And your RPE might be pretty high. It might be a 9, maybe even a 10 at moments. So, depending on what type of activity you're doing, your RPE is going to change. Now, when we talk about strength training, which is our biggie when it comes to helping to improve bone health, we want to aim for our RPE to be somewhere around maybe a 7, maybe even an 8 when we're lifting a weight. Okay. Now, when you are new to strength training, you may not be able to get up to a 7 or 8 yet, depending on the type of equipment that you're using. So let's say you're only using body weight and let's say you're not using a huge range of motion right now. You may be able to do squats, for instance, and not necessarily feel like that's a difficult move for you yet. And that's perfectly fine. And why? Because you're new. You're new to exercise. And remember, when we're new to exercise, we want to kind of ramp ourselves up. However, once you've been in it for a few weeks and you're feeling pretty good and you're ready to amp it up, you want to turn those body weight squats into a squat where you feel like it's about a 7 or an 8 on that RPE scale. This, of course, is also going to improve or increase when you start adding weight, when you add more range of motion, things like that. So, the RPE scale is normally the one that we go to when we say, hey, this is how you decide if you are working out at a level that is appropriate for this type of workout. Now, the other thing with RPE that you can do is what we call the talk test. So, if you're doing a particular activity and you can talk to somebody, you can hold a pretty good conversation with somebody next to you, your RPE is probably around a 4 or a 5 at that time. Okay. When we want you at around a 7 or an 8, especially with strength training, you might not be able to hold a full conversation with somebody. You're going to be pretty breathless when you're doing those repetitions. So that's another way for you to gauge your intensity during your workout. The next one that I like to tell my clients is the 15 rep rule. So, what this simply means is depending on the weight that you're currently using, if you can easily do 15 repetitions of that move and you get to the 15 rep and it's still pretty easy, this is a good sign that that was probably a pretty easy move for you, and it's time for us to up the ante. In this case, we're probably going to increase the weight. 15 reps have been historically found to be kind of that threshold for muscles. If you can do any more than 15 repetitions of a particular movement, then the weight that you're using is probably too light. If you're doing any repetitions lower than that, then you're pretty good. You're still in that strength building mode. We haven't hit that plateau yet. Think of 15 repetitions almost as your plateau, as in, if I can do more than 15 repetitions of that, I might start to get those diminishing returns, meaning my body's not even trying to do this move because it's so easy. So 15 repetitions can be your new hallmark for deciding when it's time for you to increase the repetitions, or not the repetitions, when it's time for you to increase the weight of that move or to make the move itself more challenging. Last but not least, when it comes to your workout intensity, we always talk about ways of making it less challenging, especially in the population with osteopenia or osteoporosis. Some of those ways of making it less challenging would include decreasing your range of motion or decreasing the weights that you're using, maybe even doing body weight movements, etc. Well, all of those things you can take into consideration when you need to increase your intensity. All right. So let's say I just gave you that RPE scale. The next time you do your strength training movements, you're like, I think I'm probably at more like a 5 doing these moves. And Daisha said I need to be at like a 7 or even an 8. So what can I do to make it more challenging? Well, think of the ways that we make it less challenging and basically do the exact opposite. So, one of the best ways to make your exercise more intense is to increase your range of motion. So, let's take the squat. If you're currently doing a squat and maybe you're going down maybe about 45 degrees, if you're able to go even lower with proper form and technique and no pain in your joints, then going lower into your squat means that you've got to stand up. You've got more range of motion when you stand up, and you've just made that move more challenging. Believe me, going deeper in a squat is one of the best ways to get your heart rate up and for you to definitely move that RPE from a 5 to like a 9, just like that. So, range of motion is one of the best ways for you to increase your intensity for your workouts. Obviously, if we decrease weights to make it less challenging, let's increase weights to make it more challenging. So, once again, if you're using the repetitions and you're easily doing 15 repetitions of something, it's probably time for us to increase weights. If you've been watching these videos before, you know that I like to encourage people to increase weights at a small amount, 2.5 pounds at a time, maximum 5 pounds at a time. Either way, increasing your weight that you're currently using for whatever move it is going to automatically increase the challenge and the strength training component of that move. So once again, with the squats, let's say you're currently doing body weight squats and you like going down at about 45 degrees because you know that you're going to maybe hit a painful point going even deeper. But you want to continue to challenge yourself. Now would be a great time to add a light pair of dumbbells in each hand, or maybe even one dumbbell in front for like a goblet squat. You can still go down to your 45 degrees. But now that you've added that weight, you've just upped the challenge of that particular move. So keep those things in mind when it's time to challenge yourself. The last way to increase the intensity is to actually change the move itself. All right. So, in the case of a squat, mainly doing body weight squats with your feet directly underneath your hips are going to be fairly challenging. But let's say we want to make it even more challenging. Now we could do something like a sumo squat where the legs actually come further apart, toes can still face forward if that's comfortable for you. Now you've added the challenge of activating the inner thigh muscles and the glutes at the same time in that particular move. A squat can also be turned into a single leg squat. So, whether that's a Bulgarian split squat, whether that's a pistol squat, anything single leg, not only is it going to increase the challenge of the move, but you've also got that balance component in there. We know how important balance is with improving bone health. So, those are just several ways for you to improve or increase the intensity of your workouts. So I hope those tips were helpful. In the comments below, let me know, how do you plan to improve or increase the intensity of your current workouts? If you're already at a 7 or 8, great, keep it up. Eventually, however, if you're currently at a 7 or an 8, it's going to get easier and you're going to notice that maybe you're at a 5 or a 6 and it'll be time to do something to get you back up to that 7 or 8 level. But if you're already in that space where you need to improve, I want you to comment below and let me know what your plans are for upping the ante with your workouts. And that's it, everybody. I hope that this topic of exercise intensity was helpful for you, and I hope to see you next time for another hot topic.